Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending tonight's webinar. I'm Jim Madel, a financial advisor with Hendricks Wealth and Estate Management. I'm joined by Sean Hendricks, another financial advisor with our firm, also an estate planning attorney, as well as Jim Hendricks, a certified financial planner and owner of Hendricks Wealth and Estate Management. We've been hosting these former Don't Do Dumb events live near our office in West Dundee, Illinois, and via webinar for a little over a year now. We recently, as you'll see on the bottom of the screen here, we've changed the name of these to coincide with a new marketing campaign that speaks to our new slogan, "When you're ready, we're ready." We've spoken to numerous financial topics over the past 13 months, and tonight we'll look at why you should keep as little money in the bank as possible. There is an area down at the bottom of your screen for you to submit questions, and we'll look to answer any of those we receive following the presentation. So let's dive in. Those of you that are current clients of ours are aware that we believe to a great extent in Dave Ramsey's principles. And in the Ramsey baby steps, having an emergency fund occupies 2 of the 7 baby step positions. An emergency fund is your financial safety net. It provides a cushion to weather unexpected financial storms such as job loss or illness. It keeps you from running up credit card debt. Aim to build an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. This should be kept in the bank in a savings account, but should not get intermingled with your daily operating cash. Once you have this safety net in place, you can start allocating some of your savings towards investments. But let's look at some interesting facts about savings in the U.S. According to accruesavings.com, 45% of Americans have no savings at all, and 58% have less than $5,000 in savings. So kind of scary facts right there. So since we're all planning to be in that 55% that has savings, savings accounts are a great place to store money you'll need in the short term. Call it 1 year or less. They offer safety and liquidity, meaning you can access your funds immediately whenever you need them. However, savings accounts typically offer limited returns compared to investments. Traditional savings accounts generally offer interest rates under 1%, but are generally free of fees and penalties for any excessive withdrawals. Another banking option is high-yield savings accounts, which have been wildly popular lately, and they can offer attractive rates. Currently, some are as high as 5.5%, but they generally have variable rates that can go down in concert with the Fed overnight rate. Many require minimum balances, and some limit your monthly withdrawals. CDs, which have also been popular, also have some attractive rates right now, but in exchange for those guaranteed returns, they lock up your money for a specified duration. So if you think about banking products, when you put your money in a bank, it doesn't just sit in a massive vault waiting for you. The bank does what you can do with your extra savings. They invest it knowing they can likely get better returns than what they are giving to you. Banks wouldn't give you 5% in a high yield savings account if they didn't think they could earn more than that elsewhere. Instead, you should be the bank with your extra money and embrace the power of investing. Investing can help your money grow over time. Consider investments like mutual funds and ETFs in brokerage accounts. Investments have the potential for higher returns than savings accounts, but remember, they also come with higher risk. You'll want to adjust your investment style to correspond with a level of risk that is appropriate for you. So we've looked at emergency funds and a few of the banking options that are available for your cash. But what we wanted to talk about tonight is what is the right amount of cash to keep in the bank? While there is no one-size-fits-all answer for this question, we generally recommend 3 to 6 months of known expenses, plus an additional $5,000 to $10,000. The extra $5,000 to $10,000 is your buffer should you have a large unexpected expense pop up. Anything above and beyond that can be invested in a brokerage account, which is still very liquid and simply requires selling investments to free up your cash. This is, however, a general guideline. Factors such as risk tolerance or need for risk, time horizon, and personal financial goals can alter these parameters. And for retirees, we recommend a slightly different approach, which we're going to touch on shortly, based on their anticipated distributions and time horizon. So let's discuss time horizon. If you have a longer time horizon for needing your extra funds, you can generally afford to take more risk as you have more time to recover from market downturns. However, if you have short-term goals for your money, a more conservative approach might be suitable. Let's say you have a home project coming up or you're going to be buying a car within the next 12 months. We don't want those funds to be subject to the risk of investing. We generally recommend any money that will be spent within 1 year be kept in your bank, checking or savings accounts. Money with a 1 to 5 year time horizon should be invested, but with a more conservative approach, such as imbalanced funds or fixed income funds, such as bond funds. And any money that you don't plan to use for 5 or more years can be invested aggressively. And we're talking stock market aggressive, not speculative or gambling aggressive, but stock market risk. And getting back to retirees, for our clients who are retired, we normally, in our practice, we have 5 years worth of anticipated distributions in more conservative holdings for them, which all but eliminates their need for a full-fledged emergency fund. However, we do still recommend that they keep all known expenses for the next 6 months in banking products. So if you're not sure where to start, talk to a professional. Speaking with a financial advisor like us can help provide valuable guidance in assessing your risk tolerance and developing a personalized investment plan that includes a money in the bank approach in addition to investing. Because there is no one size fits all approach to your finances, we recommend you have a financial plan that is tailored to you and your specific lifestyle. So to recap, we want you to keep a separate emergency fund with 3 to 6 months of living expenses. This is your safety net. Choose banking products wisely. Remember, guaranteed products like high-yield savings accounts and CDs have trade-offs like locking up your money for a specified period or limiting withdrawals in exchange for those guaranteed returns. Remember, you can be the bank by investing your extra money yourself. Remember, the reason the banks give you that 3 to 5% return is because they know they can invest your funds elsewhere and get a better return. So we want you to think about being the bank and take your extra money, invest that, instead of letting the bank do that for you. And generally speaking, keep 3 to 6 months of known expenses, like home repairs or down payments, in the bank, plus an extra $5,000 to $10,000. And lastly, talk to us. We're here to help you build out a plan that's designed specifically for you and your lifestyle. So it was, for those of you that attended these meetings in the past, this was a fairly shorter meeting than we've had in the past. We've dragged these out sometimes to a half hour or more, and we've had some feedback saying we'd like a little bit shorter, more concise presentations. So we hope that you got a lot out of this. If you have any questions, please be sure to enter them into the Q&A area, and we'll stick around here for a while to answer them. Jim or Sean, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I've got a couple things that I'll just kind of piggyback on to some things that Jim said earlier. There's a big delineation between emergency funds, and if you're looking for a specific amount that you want to have put away, as to whether you are still working or not, or whether you're retired. We talk about this term emergency in emergency funds, and the biggest emergency that can typically cause people to dip into their emergency fund is a loss of employment, an unexpected loss of employment, particularly. So that's the main thing that during your working years you're insuring against by having 3 to 6 months of just basic living expenses. When we're talking 3 to 6 months, we don't mean take your gross income and divide it by divide it by 12 to figure out a monthly amount, then multiply that by either 3 or 6 to come up with your 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Rather, it's just how much your basic living expenses, the cost of groceries, any other necessities you have, might have a car payment, a mortgage payment, utilities, things like that, and figure out what that budget is. And that's what we want you to have 3 to 6 months of in banking products while you're still working. Because while you're still working, obviously you could unexpectedly lose your job. However, once people are retired, and Jim touched on this a little bit, once you're retired, then you can't lose your job anymore. You've already voluntarily walked away from your job. So the need to have 3 to 6 months of full living expenses in the bank kind of goes away. If you're working with us, we've got 5 years worth of your investments in more conservative investments already. So you don't really need to have that 3 to 6 month emergency fund. You're already taking withdrawals from your portfolio in most cases if you're a retiree to help supplement your monthly retirement income that you might be receiving from Social Security or a pension. So you can't really lose that job. So there's not really a risk of needing a full-fledged emergency fund to cover all basic living expenses. However, we always do want people to keep $5,000 to $10,000 plus any known projects or expenses you might have coming up over that time. So a big thing for this is things like home repairs. You might be remodeling a bathroom, getting a new driveway, making a down payment on a new car, something like that. Those are the types of things we want you to have. If you know you're going to need cash, keep those types of things in the bank. But everything else really can get mixed into your portfolio. And for those of you who are working with us, you know we've got a bit of a spectrum of more conservative to more aggressive investments. And for the very, very short-term stuff, anything you might use in between 6 months and 3 years, we're typically using bonds or bond funds to cover that. And those generally have better returns than banking products. For the 3 to 5 years, where a lot of you might have heard us use the term Goldilocks funds. So these are kind of not too hot, not too cold investments that we tend to use for the 3 to 5 year funds. And then for 5 years and longer, that's where we have the ability to use stock market funds. And for those who need growth, we do tend to go with that shorter term, 5-year term. For more, once you reach monies that won't be spent for 5 years, we're going to be more aggressive with those. If you just won the lottery and you have $27 million, more than you're ever going to need, then you have the luxury of being conservative with that whole lump sum. So we could, in theory, be conservative with your entire portfolio if that's what you wanted to do. But for those of us who need growth, which is most of us, we generally recommend that we put that 5-year and longer money in something more aggressive. Another thing I was going to comment on is CDs. CDs have had fairly attractive rates recently here. I personally have never owned a CD, and it's likely that I never will. I won't completely rule it out. The only time I would really use a CD would be if I knew I had an expense that was coming up at a certain point in time, maybe more than 6 months, less than a year from now, and I wanted to have a guarantee that I'd have a certain level of return on a certain amount of funds, and I know for sure I'm not going to need to access those funds before the term of that CD might be over. So let's say next June, I knew I was going to have to make some type of major purchase. I might go into something close to a 9-month CD and try to lock in my 5% these days. But that's not typically the case. We don't see too much of that. Instead, again, keeping everything in the bank where it's liquid, where it's accessible is fine. And then for anything longer than 1 year in duration, typically over a lifetime, you're typically going to see better returns out of bonds or bond funds than you will out of banking products. So those are the main things I kind of wanted to piggyback on with this presentation. Jim or Sean, anything else?
I didn't have anything else. I was just monitoring the Q&A in the chat, and it's been a pretty quiet group so far.
Okay.
Yeah, we did get a question. Someone joined a little late here, and they want to know if we'll send the slides or the replay of the link of the webinar. I already have a list of people that I'll send it to, so you know who you are that submitted that question. I will add you to the list and send out there's a link that I'm going to send you that will, it'll be active tomorrow, so I can't send it tonight, but tomorrow after it's finished processing, I'll send the link out to you, and you'll just be able to click in and start the webinar from the very beginning. So.
And
Right.
this is our new slogan. When you're ready, we're ready. We used to call these "Don't Do Dumb." I still like that "Don't Do Dumb." I think it's kind of catchy. But our new marketing slogan, and you might, if you're local to our office here, you might start to see or hear some advertisements that feature "When you're ready, we're ready." The reason we're doing that is because hiring a financial advisor isn't something that somebody really decides to do necessarily when they see or hear an ad. It's more about being top of mind when somebody makes that decision. Yeah, I really do need to go see a financial planner. It really might be in my best interest to talk to somebody who might be able to help me with my long-term financial plan. And we're just trying to have that top of mind position when people do ultimately make that decision. Like, hey, I really should talk to somebody. And that's why we try not to be too pushy or try to, talk people or coerce people into scheduling meetings through these webinars. We want to just be able to provide some good advice. And then when you are feeling like you're in a position where maybe you could be in a position to talk to a financial planner and you might have some benefit there, then we want to be ready when you're ready. So that was the reason for the change in names in these seminars.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim.
And there was one thought that I had too that relates to this subject matter. I think at least one of the reasons that this came up was because there's all sorts of news reports out there about how people are using things like CDs right now, and that there are people who have cash on the sidelines. And if you are one of those people, or if you know some of those people, especially with CDs, it might be a good idea to keep an eye on when some of those maturity dates are, because there are some products out there that if you don't pay attention, they could automatically re-enroll. So if you do have, or you do know people who are using strategies that involve CDs, those rates may not stay as attractive as they are right now over time, and it might be prudent to keep an eye on when those dates are going to be coming up in the future.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Great point, Sean. Yeah,
Yep.
CDs will a lot of times automatically renew if you don't take action within 10 days of expiration. So that's a really good point. So if you have CDs and you don't want to own them any longer, make sure you keep an eye on that expiration date.
Yep. All right. It doesn't look like we have any other questions rolling in. We'll give you a couple more seconds to get any questions in, but our next upcoming When You're Ready, We're Ready session will be on November 6th, and it'll be about Roth IRAs. So Roth accounts are great, but are they right for you? We'll cover why they're fantastic accounts, but they're not for everybody. All right.
Okay.
Well, if that's it for the questions, we'll give you some more of your evening back. And feel free to log into jghfs.com. You can also go to hendrickswealth.com now. That's our new website as well. And /events. And you can sign up for that upcoming webinar on 11/6. Also, if you know anyone that's out there that could use some information on Roth accounts, that might be a great one for them to attend. So if you know people that might be interested in these sessions, pass the invite along to them as well, and we'll keep doing these. We'll see you next time, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.